Thank you for joining me today. Question: is it possible to be very much into computer programming and videography and computer animation and still become a saint? And the answer is yes. And we have a marvelous illustration with a young man who has recently been beatified, which is the last step to becoming a saint. Carlo Acutis was born into an Italian family, but in London in 1991. He grew up outside Milan. Now, it's interesting. Some saints were born into very devout families. Our own Saint Therese said that her parents, who are now saints, were more worthy of heaven than of earth. This was not the case with him. His parents admitted, certainly his mother, they were not practicing Catholics. But somehow the faith was alive in him. There was a spark of faith. Perhaps it came through a Polish nanny. He was born into a well-to-do family. He was an only child, but at a very young age, when they were out, if they passed a church, he wanted to go inside and make a visit to the Blessed Sacrament. And once he made his first communion, he would go to Mass every day. He was very devoted to Jesus in the Eucharist. He would go to Eucharistic adoration, and he had a great devotion to the Blessed Mother. He would pray the Rosary every day. At the same time, he was a normal child who enjoyed sports, who enjoyed his friends, who enjoyed travel. And yet there was something else unusual about him, that he became very interested in computer technology at a very young age and became self-taught. And he started to produce things, and he realized that the internet could be an influencer for good. And that's what he tried to do. He made a compilation of Eucharistic miracles, of shrines in honor of the Blessed Mother, and so forth. And he continued to do this. He was known to be a very good friend, to stand up for children who were bullied, to particularly be kind to children whose parents were going through a divorce. He said, all of us are born as originals, but many of us die as copies. He entered a Jesuit high school, and at the age of 15, he contracted what they thought was the flu, but was really leukemia. And he was dead within a few days. But he offered his sufferings for the Pope and for the Church. He died in 2006. Interesting thing is that as he delved more deeply into his faith, he brought his parents, or at least his mother, along as well, and she grew in her faith. She became a catechist, and 4 years after his death, at the age of 44, she gave birth. She gave birth to twins. His name is Carlo Acutis, or Blessed Carlo Acutis. And on October 4th, he was beatified by Pope Francis in Assisi. Blessed Carlo is buried in Assisi because, like St. Francis, he had a great love for the poor. You could say that the loves of his life were Jesus in the Eucharist, the Blessed Mother, the poor that he reached out to, and technology, something that he used for good. And he was a normal kid who lived a normal life, and yet at the same time lived a life of deep and extraordinary faith. For example, he very much liked video games, but he would limit himself to 1 hour a week to play those games. So he had an appreciation of things. He also had a strong sense of self-discipline in a good sense of the word. And he reminds us that holiness is possible in so many walks of life, that holiness is possible in all honest walks of life, even at a young age. There's a couple of links to a couple of videos with this if you'd like to watch along as well. So he's our newest beat, blessed Carlos Acutis. What a wonderful example. And as we prepare in November to celebrate all the saints, it's marvelous to think about the breadth and the depth in the lives of the saints. They are all so marvelous, and they lived out their faith in very different ways. And they remind us that we are all called to be saints, each in our own way. We might not become canonized saints, but we're all called to share in the life and love of God in heaven. We are all called to be saints. As our own Saint Therese would say, do not wait until tomorrow to start becoming a saint. It might sound impossible, but it's not. Every day we have many opportunities to grow in holiness, to grow in becoming saints. And Blessed Carlo Acutis is one example of that. By the assistance of his prayers and the inspiration of his example, may we all become saints. Blessed Carlo Acutis, pray for us.